All right. So, like Dr. Shaw mentioned, this is informal. I have some slides mostly just to keep me on track, but feel free to like jump in and we can talk about anything as we go. Most of you know me. I'm Krysta Ingram. I'm one of the family doctors here and the patient and community experiences lead for NAMP, but also mostly what I'll be talking about today is my involvement in small group teaching. Ooh, maybe. I'll make it. Oh, here. Oh, there. Okay, there it goes. So I've been privileged this year to get involved with all these learning spaces, discovery learning, ICR, which is integrated clinical reasoning, communications, and physical exam. So I'm just going to share a little bit about my experience, what each of those spaces kind of looks like, as well as just my favorite parts of each. So hopefully it may inspire more people to get involved. So discovery learning is small group sessions. Typically, it involves about 7 to 8 students. And how it works is that we've been meeting throughout one of the systems blocks. So pulmonary, endo, cardio, and you meet 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings throughout the block to work through one of the cases that relates to their systems topic. So during endo block, we had a case on osteoporosis and fragility fractures, for example, and typically involves kind of the students practicing taking histories, formulating a differential, looking at typical physical exam findings, exploring initial workup and first management for that case. And as I mentioned, it's divided over 3 days. During this time, the students identify learning objectives that they may have that arise throughout the case, and then have the opportunity to go home, research them, and then come back and discuss during the next session. So I'm just going to share why I kind of like this teaching space, which is I like that it's quite predictable scheduling. It's always the Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning. So if you have a predictable clinical schedule, it's easy to kind of like work in or around these. It's relatively short-term commitment because you don't have to sign up for the full year. You can go block by block, which typically ranges from 2 to 6 weeks. There is one longer block, but if it doesn't seem like something you can commit to for the whole year, you can kind of commit block by block. I like that it feels quite collaborative with the students. They're really meant to be researching and discovering answers and teaching each other on their own. The onus isn't so much on you as the preceptor. You're allowed to not know every answer and suggest that the students go and look that up and come back to you and maybe teach you back about something that they, a bit of a rabbit hole that they may want to go down. So that takes a little bit of the pressure off. The cases are really well laid out with a facilitator guide that you get the facilitator guides for all of the cases at the beginning of the block, so you can kind of go through, see what you're expected to teach them, and then you release these on a like page by page, kind of choose your own adventure thing through the case to the students. I personally enjoyed the refresher on many of the topics, and I like that the topics are in line with the lectures that the students are getting that week. It helps them kind of apply what they're learning in the lectures and gives them a little bit more like clinical aspect to what they're learning on a day by day. So the next space that I've been involved with is integrated clinical reasoning. This is a new learning space this year, kind of a new in development. Again, it's a small group of about 7 to 8 students. They're at this point in time, it's running at about kind of 1 week per month throughout the year. Focuses more on learning process over learning like specific content. I like that it has a very comprehensive facilitator guide that you're given about a week in advance. And it follows the same structure every week. This is where the students are working through a case that's purposefully misaligned from their lecture content to promote focus on process. They typically will start with creating a very broad differential for a scenario. For example, a patient presents with 3 weeks of intermittent fever. And then they go through a very broad differential, and then you kind of walk them through the process of narrowing down that differential. How do we do that through, how do we refine through targeted history, physical examination, explore what information would cause your differential to change significantly, and explore like patient context and why that matters to these different presentations. So why I really like this one might be my favorite of the, it's up there for sure of my teaching spaces. It's really exciting. It feels most closely related to real life and how we think as clinicians. I personally wish that I'd had this framework as a student, so it feels really exciting to be part of that teaching space. You can really see the students' development through this, like over the course of the year, because you are with the same group. Once a month throughout the year, you can see how their knowledge and process progresses. It does have a little bit more direct teaching involved, because oftentimes the students may have very little or no exposure to the topic. For example, this last case that we did was on polyarthropathy. And the students really had no kind of exposure to like rheumatologic disease or stuff. So there was a little bit more guided, which I personally like. That might not be for everyone, but I kind of liked being able to teach them a little bit more about things like that. And you can really see that the students are outside of their comfort zone, which I don't know that the students always like, but I like that because I can really see them growing through that space. We already had a wonderful lecture on what communications is like, so I won't go into that, but why I particularly like communications, I'd say this tied for my favorite here with ICR. It feels incredibly meaningful when you're teaching communications. For me, like it appeals to my personal beliefs that communication skills is where good doctors become great doctors. And so I feel like when you're passing on those skills, you feel like you're making a real difference in their development. There's lots of opportunities for direct coaching of the students, real-time feedback, and creating that culture of feedback. And it requires minimal prep, which is kind of nice. And then the last space that I've been really involved in is physical exam. So this is a small groups of 3 to 4 students, kind of variable teaching times. It's often kind of you sign up for a one-off single afternoon or morning session, teaching a set of skills around examination of a system or a part of a system, example, like the head and neck exam or examination of pulses. The prep usually involves reading or readings around the exam maneuvers or watching some videos about them. And then the session typically involves a bit of demonstration and a lot of allowing the students to practice the examination while giving them some like targeted feedback as they go. I like it because the students are so keen. They're so excited to try some of these like exam maneuvers that they've read about. They're dynamic and hands-on sessions. The teaching skills are generally very familiar to what we're doing every day, particularly in family practice. And I like that I get to pass down clinical pearls about things that are working well or how I like to approach things. So those are the spaces that I've been involved with, and I just wanted to like share a little bit about them. Tell you that small group teaching at NAMP for me is a 5 out of 5 stars. Overall enjoyable, fun, rewarding, would recommend to a friend. So